Welcome to the November Board Wrap-Up Show for Ponca City Public Schools. I'm your host, Sean Anderson, and on this edition, of course, as we do every month, we visit with Superintendent of Ponca City Public Schools, Shelley Arrott, for a recap of the Board of Education monthly meeting, and that meeting was Monday, and so it's time to talk about it. And of course, throughout these unprecedented times, everything is very different. Before we talk about what was on the agenda for the November Board of Education meeting, what about the changes that COVID protocols have brought into the boardroom?
Well, there was a time that we were meeting via Zoom, and per the governor's orders, we could do that in an open meeting, and we reverted back to face-to-face meetings, but we do meet upstairs in the seminar room, not the boardroom, and we definitely are spread far apart, way more than 6 feet, and we have mask protocol. And in the past, we've done student presentations and have guests, and guests are still welcome. We still have guests in our boardroom, but we try not to encourage large group gatherings, performances, or awards, just to try to slow the spread.
Yeah.
So they're definitely different.
Yeah. Well, one thing that is consistent through all of this, every Board of Education meeting starts with the Board of Education awards. And we always love talking about this. And I love that every Board of Education meeting starts this way. It's great news. And tell us about the awards this month.
Well, as I mentioned, we're doing those different. We always present those on site, and we want the site that maybe made the nomination to see the presentation of the award, and then we do it. Then we honor the recipient publicly at the board meeting, and usually they come in and sites come in for lots of support. But now we're just taking photographs of the site, and we're just displaying those on a slideshow and reading the nomination and honoring the people. And the certified employee of the month this month is Kathy Bible, and she is an assistant principal at West Middle School. This is her second year here, and she is just one of those people. She jumps in with both feet and will help solve any problem, and she's been a real asset to our district. Assistant principal at West Middle School. Our support employee of the month was Brandy Turner, and she's with our child nutrition program, and she is at the pre-K center, and everybody is part of one team at all of our sites. It doesn't matter if you're the principal, a teacher, or the custodian. It takes everyone, and she works in the child nutrition program, and she's great with our little 4-year-olds at the pre-K center. Our friend of education this month is Kylie Hughes and her family. They are huge supporters at East Middle School, particularly with the clothes closet. If there is a need that students may have, they make sure they have it. So we certainly appreciate our volunteers and our friends of education who are part of Team PCPS without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, well, there were a lot of things on the agenda, including the college remediation report. What exactly is the college remediation report?
Okay, so every year this is required that we report to our board on the percentage of students who have to take a college remediation course in science, English, math, and reading. And it's only counted for first year freshmen. And last year we didn't even take an ACT because we were in closure. It runs a year behind anyway. So this is actually from 2018. And we were below the state in remediation in regard to science and math, and then slightly above the state in English and reading. And our high school principal presented this report, Dr. Delana Hawkins. And last year, based on our data from the previous year, it showed pretty much the same thing. So our board took action, and there's this site called Works Clearinghouse, and we've had experience with it before, but our students participate, have a program that our board purchased called Reading Plus, and we use it 6 through 12. And it's amazing the rate at which reading levels improve. And we started it last year and we were seeing so much success. And then we went into closure. And, we had done a lot to raise our attendance rate, our EL rates, our reading scores. And then we didn't get to have state testing last year. Of all the years you want state testing, and we
Right.
didn't get to do it. So, of course, we're still gathering our data and measuring the data. So Dr. Hawkins presented that information and explained that to the board. And if we have a concurrent enrolled student, they are not considered a first-time college enrollee. So we have to subtract our current students from those percentages as well, concurrent enrollment students. So good report. She did a good job.
Very good. Well, that state testing didn't happen because of COVID, obviously. And that's a nice transition into the COVID report update for Ponca City Public Schools. A very critical situation for Ponca City High School, and a really tough decision was made. The correct decision. I think many would agree when you get to the kind of percentages that Pohai was getting to as far as close contact quarantines. You really are left without a choice. And it's all about keeping the students and the staff safe, right?
Absolutely, number one goal. But when we went into this whole pandemic, it was our goal to keep our kids in school. And that's what we're going to do as long as it is safe. And I will tell you, at the high school, and that was Monday night, our board meeting was Monday night. We had worked all weekend, and Monday, you just couldn't even catch your breath. And I promise you, at the high school, the attendance was dwindling by the minute on Monday. And actually, these cases were coming from the outside, like connected to family. We weren't widespread in the high school, but we were to that tipping point that if we didn't go to distance learning, the high school had the potential to become a super spreader. So we had to make that call. It was not an enjoyable call, and it was not one that we would want to have to make, but it was one that we had to make based on those percentages. And I actually pulled up my percentages here. Uh-oh, my computer logged out, to give you an update of our latest percentages. And we just moved to distance learning at Pohai because there was no need anywhere else, because our percentages were really low. And our goal is to keep as many kids face-to-face instruction, interacting with each other as possible. So the responsible thing to do is to keep those schools in session that are not showing significantly high percentages. And I know that's a hardship for parents, especially for our little kids. They have to take off work. You just can't leave an elementary student home alone. Easier at the high school. Students are old enough to stay home alone. But at the high school, I can tell you our percentages right now. At Pohai, we got to the point where 33% of our students were either in isolation or quarantine. And those close contacts were from 15 positives. And my limited experience with COVID-19, I can tell you that we can contain it. We know how to mitigate and slow the spread, but once it gets loose, there's no containing it. So that's why we moved to distance learning, to avoid widespread throughout the high school. And in our enrollment numbers, 12% of our kids are straight out virtual, PCVA, Ponca City Virtual Academy. So 32% out plus the 12% for Virtual Academy. It was pretty bare at the high school. So our next highest school with the greatest percentage out is East Middle School with 14%, but that's only 47 kids. So the smaller the school, the higher the percentage. I didn't tell you the number at the high school. The number at the high school was 390 plus the 160 something virtual students. At West, 6% are affected. At Wildcat Academy, not even one student was a close contact. At Garfield, 5%, and that's our smallest site. So it's actually only 10 students. Liberty, 3%, Lincoln, 1%, Roosevelt, 1%, Trout, 3%, Union, 1%, Washington Pre-K, 3%, and Woodlands, 2%. So you can see those numbers are so low. We are able to contain it, and we know there are going to be some close contacts. Here is just a little bit of positive news. I was looking at some data last night. We have not closed an elementary classroom due to a positive in the classroom since October 14th, almost a month. What's today, the 12th? Almost a month. I'm almost reluctant to say that because you don't want to jinx it, but
Right.
that's really good. There's no reason to close any other place. So I will tell you that several people have asked, are we going to close between and go to full distance learning between Thanksgiving and Christmas? That is not the goal. We may have to, but we're not going to plan for something that we don't need to do. If we see that it's about to become widespread at a site, we will do it at that site. But our goal is to keep a face-to-face learning and things going as normal as long as we possibly can. If I'm being honest, I think that our protocols have allowed us to go this long at the high school. I mean, it's a big plane. I mean, there's a lot of kids there. So I think our people have done a great job so far.
Yeah, for sure. There's a plan in place, and most importantly, the plan is clearly working, and decisions are being made at appropriate times and appropriate ways. And again, the bottom line, keeping the students and staff safe and mitigating and doing your best. And like you said, when the numbers get as high as they did at Pohai, you're really left without a choice. The only logical choice, and the choice according to the boundaries of the plan that you have for Ponca City Public Schools, is to go to distance learning. And good thing that we have that technology in place to be able to do that.
And we've done a lot of practice with that, and it's a paradigm shift for our students and our teachers, and they have become so adept. And hey, you learn best when you do. So they've had to, and they've done some. We've had the practice days. We've got one coming up Friday. Pohai is already on distance learning, but the rest of the district will do the practice day too, just in case such an event occurs. And what I will enjoy, the simple pleasure that I will enjoy most when we get through this pandemic, is just a little bit of predictability. We have none, and things can change in a matter of 10 seconds. So you roll with it.
Well, one of the regular features of the Board of Education meeting, of course, contracts and contract approvals and reviews. And that was certainly a part of the November Board of Education meeting. How did that go?
Oh, it went well. And usually we have numerous contracts, and I'm thinking of contact tracing. We have numerous contracts, but for some reason we didn't have a lot of contracts this month. I think it was the lowest number since I've been superintendent for 4 years. So,
well, one of the issues on the list was dates for the Board of Education meetings. And that was decided, something that's got to be planned for.
That's by law. We have to post those a year in advance, and we take a look at the dates. And our typical board meeting is the second Monday of every month. Sometimes holidays throw us off. So I think the only month that we changed to the third Monday was in July. We just don't have time to prepare sometimes and get all our reports in place and all the POs in place that have to be board approved before we can utilize those funds.
There was a bid in the transportation department of Ponca City Public Schools.
Oh, this is exciting news. We are getting 3 alternative fuel school buses. They're propane powered school buses. And we actually applied for a grant through the VW Diesel Emissions Environmental Mitigation Trust and the Alternative Fuel School Bus Grant Program. So they are paying for half of those buses. So we are getting 3 brand new buses, and they're paying for right at half of those. So that's going to be exciting. you know, in the school business, everything's on a rotation. Things just wear out, and we were in great need of those buses. So that was a wonderful opportunity for us.
Oh, that is exciting. That is big news. So
Yes.
propane powered buses. That is interesting. And of course, having those will, of course, affect the bottom line. It takes a lot of fuel to
It
fuel
does.
those buses. So fantastic. That is great news. Well, the Board of Education policies, whenever there are new policies, they've got to be put before the board and approved and worked out. What new policies are we talking about for the Board of Education?
Well, last month I recapped those, and that's required. We recap those policies and we get public opinion or input. And then if our board wants to change any wording, but we update our policies every year. And to be honest, most of those are because of legislative actions. Our policies have to match the current law. So some of those we don't have a choice about. We changed some verbiage, just very minor. So there weren't significant changes, but the board did approve those policies. And as soon as we get them worked into our policy book, they are numbered, and by section, they will be on our website.
All right. Shelley Arrott, Superintendent of Ponca City Public Schools, and every month we have a chance to sit down with Shelley. Now, in the times we're living in, we do it via Zoom. And Shelley Arrott, thank you for being our guest on the Board Wrap-Up Show.
Hey, thank you for having me, Sean.
Thank you for watching. That's going to do it for the Board of Education monthly Board Wrap-Up Show for Ponca City Public Schools. I'm your host, Sean Anderson. Thanks for watching. Until next time.